Yes, the mechanical voice tells us all that it is December the 15th, 2021. And this is a meeting of the Emergency Preparedness Committee of the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council. And meeting housekeeping. I think I've got everybody listed down at this point that is here, and the system will record you also. So I think we're good there. Recording in fact is on, so we're rock and rolling there. Meeting schedule, we're later than normal today because of a variety of the discussions about, rather than trying to force a presentation in the week before Christmas and people's brains being elsewhere and all the rest of it, we just decided to kind of leave things loose at the end, open chat. And in grade school, I think they called it show and tell. So if you got anything you want to show or you want to tell at the end, that's your opportunity. And with that, the question would be, I think everybody has been here at least once before. Are there any newcomers at this point? Going once, going twice.
Well, I'm not new, but I don't think anyone could hear me last time.
Oh, that's right. Samantha, please go ahead and introduce yourself. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. Since it's working, let's go ahead and get this going. My name is Sam Huggett. I live in the St. Cloud area and I work for Geocom. We handle a variety of NG 911 data for counties all across the nation, even overseas in some cases. So I'm happy to be here with everyone and looking forward to working with all of you. There we go.
Well, thank you very much, Sam. Did just out of curiosity, at the MGAC meeting this morning, Dan Ross briefed that the pull together of the data for the next gen 911 system in the state had been handed out to a vendor. Are you guys handling that? Is that what the deal is?
I'm not sure. I don't think that's us, but
okay.
I was definitely curious about that as well because I did attend this morning's meeting as well.
Okay. All right. So call to order. Do I have a motion to open this event?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, we're underway. So the approval of agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to what was been posted for the agenda? Going once, going twice, gone. We're underway. Updates, issues, and good efforts. Updates. Dear Santa, I've been good all year. Okay. Usually. Okay. Very occasionally. Okay. Never mind. I'll buy something myself. All right, here's what we got on the screen for past events. October 13th, the underground mapping project team at the Common Ground Alliance in Florida, critical infrastructure project team on the 15th. And Stacy, when we get to your part of the presentation, I know you've shifted your dates around. Could you please make sure you brief that in your section?
Will do.
Okay, thank you. And then October 18th and November 15th, what happened was they actually voted the Clean Water Council policy vote in support of the underground utilities mapping project team. It's a big deal. I'm very pleased that that has taken place. October 28th, large group meeting of the underground utilities mapping project team, presentation at Minnesota GIS LAS, and followed on November 19th, critical infrastructure project team. I think you actually canceled that one, if I remember correctly. Isn't that true, Stacy? I'll have to update it.
Sorry, I was muted again. Yes, true.
Yeah, and I think you rescheduled it for December 3rd is where it fell. My memory serves me right.
That is correct. Yep. So I'm looking that up right now so I can
okay.
Verify.
So some mistakes there, but you get the general idea. As we have been in the past, we continue to be very busy. And just this morning, more than a few of us were over at the MGAC meeting that started at 10 o'clock this morning. What's up on the agenda coming through? I went searching for, before I get running down the list here, I went searching for the Minnesota governor's emergency management meeting that normally happens in February, and I can't find anything. Is there anyone on the call that's aware of whether they're going to actually have it or not?
This is BJ. I think I heard that it had been canceled.
It is officially canceled?
Well, I'm not official, but that's what I heard.
Okay.
I can check for you if you want.
No, I mean that kind of is in line with what I was able to find online. It just didn't seem like there was anything there.
Mhm.
And normally by now they've got some word on the street about, what the agenda is and the rest of it. Here nothing. So kind of weird deal. Once again, that's 2 years in a row, isn't it, BJ?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad. So here's the itinerary going forward as best I know it. I think really kind of highlight points as far as I'm concerned is the U.S. National Grid Implementation Working Group has fallen by the wayside for the last 6 months, largely as a result of me being hit by a truck, but we hope to get that back on the road on January 19th, date to be adjusted according to what the leadership team thinks we should do there. And then I got to go up to the Minnesota Society of Professional Surveyors to chat with them about the underground utilities project team. And you can see a couple of other things on there, wrapping March 30th up with next MGAC meeting. Is there anything else that we should be aware of that should be plugged into that list? Going once, going twice, gone. Here we go. Next item up, if I can make this thing work. People, let's look at some people. If you're not aware of it, Dan Ross is departing. January 3rd will be his last day in the office. He is going to become the temporary executive director of NISGIC, which is the National States Geographic Information Council. And he is supposedly going to be there only for 120 days. What he does after that, he was kind of guarded about, but it seems to me that interim directors have this tendency to become the real director. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him in that capacity. We've known Dan for eons. He's been part of the EPCs, tried to make an effort to be here when he can. And we wish him all the best in his efforts going forward. Sorry, Matt. That's the best picture I could find online. But anyway, hats off to Matt Goodman. He has made the effort to step forward on behalf of, and kind of mixed in with the comments about Dan. Last time we met, Dan Ross chimed in with the idea that he really thought that there should be a member of our committee also hooked into the NISGIC Geospatial Preparedness Committee. And Matt has stepped forward in that role, and he had registered. So I'm kind of sorry he's not here. I'd like to hear how that effort has gone so far. But then we can kind of move over to he also has put together a pretty impressive fire mapper application that had a nice write-up in the Duluth Press. And I'm actually going to divert for a second and say, has Stacy, have you had an opportunity to kind of do you want to fill in a little bit more on that fire mapper application?
I can look, or maybe even BJ knows more than I do, but there was a nice publication about some work that he did with some of the fires in Lake and Cook County this summer. And yeah, I think St. Louis County had offered he works for St. Louis County, but he worked with Lake and Cook, I believe, to make sure that the responders had the information they needed, and community members could look to see what was happening, where the evacuation zones were.
Mhm.
I'll try to pull up that article right now.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, issues. Here comes the broken record. The EPC IT thing, to the extent that anything has happened there, the answer would be no. We got together in a large group to look, and when I say we, I'm talking about a variety of members from the MGAC, and I'm just going to kind of pop through here. And so this is being led by Corey Richter and trying to figure out, if you look at what the EPC currently has, we've got a front-facing website that belongs to us, doesn't belong to the state. We put it up because, quite frankly, the response on editing anything on the website and the content that was there was just onerous in trying to get things changed. And it's not a function of people not doing their jobs. It's just the volume of what needs to be done and who's available to do it and all the rest of it. So we're looking at something more flexible. The state stood up a SharePoint site on the backside for coordination, which kind of paralleled something that we'd already done that used the Google platform. And so, as I've said here, there's just a wide range of cats and dogs of how we put this thing together. And we're way ahead of literally every other committee, maybe except for 3DEP, who's got a couple of people that are like committed full time to working on their stuff. So Corey is supposed to be leading the effort towards something that will result in a product that'll be like ArcGIS Hub. And I know this is kind of a review, but it leads down into the lane of, if I'm going to do anything with trying to get ourselves caught up, I'm going to have to do it during effectively what's going to end up being the next 3 weeks of Christmas and New Year's break. So that's a point of focus for me going forward, seeing if I can get our operation cleaned up and all that stuff behind us as an administrative burden. So that's kind of where that's headed. And as I've already mentioned, time to get the train back on the tracks with the U.S. National Grid Institute. Thought I was going to be able to do it in October, but it's been pushed back to January. Good efforts. We continue to do pretty darn well on our YouTube enablement. And I know 1,600 views in a year doesn't seem a lot to many folks, but we literally turned it on this time last year. And for us to have had the opportunity to share knowledge in 16 different instances, I believe that to be a very positive thing for this group. So as meetings are recorded and training is recorded, that's all being posted up on YouTube. And I anticipate that we'll be able to do better than 1,600 in 2022. So we'll have to see. Cobb County, Georgia continues to stimulate, and I briefed this again last time we were together, but their efforts in trying to put forward different applications of U.S. National Grid in the field. We are able to get their latest shipment of stuff sent out to them, and we are still on hold of getting these new products out of the door at Gopher, which unfortunately is kind of a bad deal, but because Cobb County wants to move into the realm of marking the marine environment. And this marker here would be for the vertical install on buoys. And this one is designed, basically it's 3 feet by 5 feet to be hung on like railings that face the water. So somebody in the water could report where an incident's taking place. And kind of the reason I revisited the issue of what's going on in Cobb County is it continues to stimulate efforts at bringing additional manufacturers on who have got capability of doing different kinds of production. And so we originally started out when this committee kind of came together and created the background idea behind the ELM marker that eventually has been used or has been facilitated through efforts at Shared Geo. We only were using one manufacturer, and that was Lyle in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Well, we've now been able to bring on board what effectively is 4 manufacturers who are capable of delivering a variety of different products. Plus BJ, who's on the call right now, is going to work to try to bring on Iowa Prison Industries based on some work that was previously done that identified it that Minnesota does not have a sign production capability within its Bureau of Corrections. And as a result of that, we qualified the state in general qualifies for request of production of ELMs with Iowa Prison Industries. And because of the production issues that occurred at Gopher, we're looking at trying to bring Vulcan on, who's in Foley, Alabama, which is down near Mobile. So, spreading the wealth across, and as each of these manufacturers comes online, it provides another opportunity for promotion and delivering the idea of what this ELM effort is all about. Randy will once again tell us a little bit about what's been going on over in Sawyer and Bayfield, and BJ is here, and she can. Would you like to speak at all to the issue of the recent training you gave for Bayfield with folks from Sawyer sitting in, BJ?
Sure, I can, whoops, hang on. I can just mention that last Thursday, we, again, the second time trained the Bayfield County dispatchers, but also included their responders for the first time, and also some from Sawyer County. So we had about 45 or 50 people on that. And we're also going to do it again for Sawyer County sometime soon. They have a lot of trails that intersect in both counties, the Birkebeiner Trail, the Campbell Bike Trails, et cetera. And they're working really hard. So it's going well.
Yeah. So a takeaway point here is BJ is available within the schedule of freedom as a retired person to provide training to first responders in understanding what U.S. National Grid is and how to use it and the rest of it. So if there's anybody here on the call that knows of a need for that, there's an opportunity right there with a very skilled and knowledgeable instructor. And with that, I think we move on to something exciting. Need a t-shirt? Several of you are well aware that Mark Whitney was at the U.S. Fire Academy and was a big proponent of U.S. National Grid. And he recently called up and was looking for, can you make me some t-shirts? So we went back to the drawing board, found some artists, and away we go. So it's now available on Zazzle, or however you pronounce it. But we can literally now get into production a t-shirt within 15 minutes of you sending the USNG grid coordinates. So if you want one, there you go. And the last thing I'd like to let you all see is this was a recent email that was forwarded me about the ELM use down in Georgia. And this is just one of several that I have seen. And it really, speaks volumes of that they appreciate this effort that's gone on to mark Cobb County with the ELM system. And there's also apparently Smyrna, Georgia is now coming on board with implementation there. So
you forward that email, Steve?
Yeah, no problem.
Please.
Yep.
We're doing a signage on trails in Dakota County. We actually hired a consultant to develop the whole signage plan and design. And I engaged to make sure that we got ELMs on there. And something like this, I did cite Cobb County, and
Yeah.
but yeah, it's important to have examples.
So BJ, you got an interesting story too. Why don't you pass that along?
Which story is that?
What 3 words?
Oh, that one. Yeah. So we heard about an incident on Cuyuna trails out in Crow Wing County, Minnesota, that did not go well. Person did not die, but it was difficult to find them. Took a long time. It was an airlift. Anyway, so apparently a committee got together and decided to come up with location markers on their trails. And what I've heard most recently in this incident happened in September is that they're planning to use what 3 words. So I've been working for the last few weeks to try to get in touch with them. And I do have the emergency manager in the county in support of US National Grid, and he put me in touch with his lead dispatcher, et cetera. But I'm working on that because they haven't called me back. So I'm going to just keep reaching out to more and more people until I get my face in there. And while we're on that, Randy, I was going to contact you because I'm trying to find examples of successful responses due to USNG or failures due to lack of USNG to put in an article. And so if you have any examples, you could email me or get in touch, or maybe Mark Erickson, is he the South Metro fire guy that might have
Yeah.
some stories? Okay,
Yeah.
anyways, if you
Mhm.
could get in
Yeah.
touch with me and help me get some of those, that would be great. I can get them in I think in the Minnesota Conservation Volunteer Magazine.
Okay.
And quickly, Steve, one more question about Mark Whitney. Is he still with the U.S. Fire Administration? Haven't been able to find him.
He's gleefully retired.
Yeah, okay. But he's not doing anything? What the heck?
He's not doing anything. I'm trying to lure him back into
Good for him.
the food fight, but
Okay,
you know,
thanks.
you can only twist people's arms so far,
Thank you.
The one thing that off of what BJ mentioned, Randy, don't forget the whole incident package. The 2 that are most prominent to me are the one in Cherokee County where the gal drove her car into the pond and knew where she was, and the water was filling the thing up, and they could not figure out where she was because she kept saying Fairway, which was the name of the street, and the dispatchers were interpreting Fairway as being on a golf course.
Oh my.
There's that incident, and then there's that whole thing that we went back and forth with the boys in Washington D.C. on, with the drowning there in Loudoun County, Virginia. Do you remember that one?
No.
Yeah.
12.
I'll forward it to you if that one is. You know what I'm talking about?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what you're talking
Okay,
about.
I'll forward it to you then. All right, what did I forget? Other victories or defeats? Are there any out there?
Watch.
Going once, going twice, gone. All right, here we go. Project team reports. They're up next. Leadership team, here we are. Corey was not able to join us today because she had a pressing business engagement for where she actually works. So probably a good idea to be there. And with that, the reminder, of course, all of our committee quarterly and annual activity reports, always available online. There they are. And our latest quarterly update would have gone in on December, but the reminder that this is what the beast will look like, and it's broken out by our various project teams. And if you've got friends or acquaintances or maybe even enemies that you think should be involved in what we're doing here, there's a reminder on our website that always tells folks you can join us and you can choose your level of participation, and it tells you how to do that. Any first timers, I think we've already pretty well established that there is no one new here. So thank you all. Volunteer initiative. Gems, what Corey would want to report at this point is that they've scheduled the group that originally formed to be available to provide GIS support for another GIS professional. If during COVID they were out sick for a period of time, they put together a volunteer team and they have adopted the GEMS rewrite, and they are beginning that effective in January. So that would be the report Corey would pass along. That takes us down to Stacy, and I'm sorry I got nothing but a dated slide for you. And look at this, Friday, October 15th. I guess I didn't check my slides very well. Did I, Stacy?
No, well, hi. I was hoping you had the my talking notes up. Let me see if I can find it. The last things, but maybe I can remember. So we decided that we are meeting now every 6 weeks. That's why we had the change in dates. So you were right. It was December 3rd, and then the next meeting will be January 14th. And we'll be doing an hour on Friday mornings every 6 weeks going forward. And then we're doing that because we're actually then having subgroups work in between. We just have too many topics that require a lot of discussion, but not every person. So our first subgroup meeting was about getting a web page up on the MinGeo website that summarizes where the best data sets are, for critical infrastructures for the state of Minnesota. So some of those are found in the GeoCommons, some of those are found on the Highfield national site, and others are with state agencies. So we try to get as close as we can to the source or the steward of the data. And then for those of you who are new on the call and haven't heard me talk about this before, this is this app that's being shown here is something that we did at Geospatial, and Zach Favra, who's actually on the call today too, developed this. And what this is a way for us to send out to counties a verification step for their fire, law enforcement, and school data. We also can do healthcare facilities. We have a place for that as well, although the state has a licensure data list that they keep up, and so we won't be publishing our own statewide data set for healthcare. We're mostly going to be focusing on law enforcement, fire, and possibly EMS. So that's where we're going in this committee. We've just talked a lot about how to get folks that are not primarily in the geospatial community to understand the importance of having updated and verified location data for critical infrastructure. And when I say that, we're starting small with just these really easy to define fire, law enforcement, and schools, but really critical infrastructure, of course, includes all kinds of different things. And that's a whole nother ball of wax to open up to look at how to get statewide data sets, but they are not all available or verified or in great shape. So that's what the committee works on, is how to improve that.
Okay, we're running a little bit ahead of time. Do you want to do some driving on the sites that you were talking about, or do you just want to, or do you just want to leave it?
Let's
That's okay.
see. let's see. Let me see if I can get the. Zach, do you have it, the website, like at your fingertips?
Yeah, hang on one
The-
second.
That's a, we didn't actually have it already. I can also show. I'll show this resource site too. So talk amongst yourselves.
Do you want to do that? Oh, I have it up. Do you
Oh,
want-
the critical infrastructure app?
I do. Yeah. Do you want me to share that?
Yeah,
screen?
that'd be great. Thanks.
Well, heck, I could share it with everyone as long as you don't actually make live submit. No, it doesn't matter. I trust everyone here. Here, I'll just send you the link.
We've spent a lot of time in the committee talking about who gets to verify the location of a facility, and how to monitor that, because we need to send it out widely, but we also don't want to spend a lot of time worrying about whether somebody is actually the appropriate person to do that.
Yep, and I just shared the link in the chat if you want to open it. But I could also share my, yeah, what would you like to just play around with it, or do you want me to kind of?
Why don't you share, you want to share your screen
Sure.
and just give a quick
Yep,
tour?
little
I mean,
overview. Sure.
if we have time, Steve.
I think we're good. Keep it to like 2 or 3 minutes and we should be good.
All right, so this is a very brief overview. This is what, there's a version of this that the public can provide feedback on, with right now just the fire station data set that's available on the Minnesota Geospatial Commons, but it doesn't actually change anything. It's just gathering the feedback. But this is the version that we send to local officials that we're working with. And it's just organized by the higher group of critical infrastructure, so emergency facilities, which includes EMS, EOC, fire station, law enforcement facilities. And so if you were with Aiken County, you could filter the data there. Even within a tribal nation, you could filter it. And then if you wanted to only look at fire stations, so here are all the fire stations in the county, and then you could review them for accuracy, both location and the attribute information. And if there was an issue, then you could submit that, whatever it is that needs to be updated, or if it needs to be deleted. It's all communicated through the survey. And when the survey is received, there's a script that runs quite frequently, and it will automatically update in the database. And so if it was something that they saw was missing, then they would say, hey, you have this data doesn't exist and you need to add it. And so it's a separate survey that appends data to the database. So that is a very brief summary.
Thank you very much. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and I can just share once Zach stops. I think I can share.
Does anyone else always, here it is. I have 3 screens and it takes me forever to figure out how to stop sharing.
Yeah, they always want to disappear. This is not the most up-to-date draft, but this is what I was talking about as far as a resource site. So at the MinGeo website, they have several different more resources training. Where is it? Oh, I think it's under here, more GIS data and maps. And if you go to this link, there's like land cover, imagery, different themes. One of those themes will be critical infrastructure. So this is not live right now. I mean, this is not something you can get to right now. But our idea is that we will have just a list that the committee has sort of verified of what the best places to go would be for publicly available statewide resources. And since we've been talking, a lot of these have actually changed. So won't go into detail, but I think that's a great addition to the MinGeo site. So we're looking forward to that. That's it, Steve.
Okay. I think we want to, did you give me capability to take screen back?
You should be able to.
Okay. I'm wildly assuming you can see where we're at. Thank you very much. That's a lot of work, and that effort's greatly appreciated. Takes us down to, gotta get to the screen here along the bottom. Okay, underground utilities mapping. This is the whole idea behind what's going on with the underground utilities project team, is getting to the point where the level of accuracy of the data that is available for underground utilities can facilitate the technologies that are inbound, if you will. And so that's the extent of it as it sits right now. This is one of these things where, as I joked about this morning at the MGAC meeting, the rocket is going to blow up on the launch pad several times before we actually get to this fusion view approach in the middle. And there's just a tremendous amount of integration, moving parts that in many ways do not have anything to do with physically building software. They have to do with things like making sure the proper legal agreements are in place and so on and so forth. But the essence of it is to be able to take at some point in the future, all the individual utility databases that exist in the state, have them basically be blended on the fly, and then out of that process be able to create 3 different elements. One that supports the current ticketing system, one that would support field data access, and then one that would support planning for underground utilities before they're actually built, and then the submission of the as-built information as it goes forward. Similar type situation on the top up here for locators. And that's the issue of right now. We have a large number of incidents where locators we're probably running in the 70 to 90% range, where locators are going out collecting data or have the capability to collect data, and the utility is not interested in harvesting that. And so we want to build on that. And we also want to build on the issue of the number of instances where locators have gone out. They find either abandoned or unknown infrastructure that's not being reported by anybody, and to somehow be able to support that. So lots of moving parts and lots of different kinds of efforts going forward. We have a 50-some line spreadsheet that we've started to build out to be able to track the individual components. GEMS, again, Corey would be here to talk to us about that, but I can jump forward and talk about the issue of GPS. And for a long time, we've been, when I say we, shared geo as a function of obtaining a number of GPS units from GITA as a form of payment for services provided. We've been sitting on approximately 100 GPS units, which we had hoped by this point would be out in use in grade schools and middle schools, or whatever the case would be, to help teach students about how GPS works and the rest of it. But by and large, due to lack of manpower, we haven't really gotten there. And then out of the blue, we got a request the other day from, of all places in the world, Uganda. And the women in GIS in Uganda have approached Share Geo looking for if there's any sort of support elements that we could provide to their efforts to teach STEM, to the geospatial elements of it, to the women organization known as Women in GIS in Uganda. So one of the things that we're looking at doing is shipping them a block of the GPS units, see how that works out for them, and then potentially try to set up a pipeline for them, that if there is used GIS equipment out there that people are willing to donate, that we could maybe set up some sort of a shipping program to help them out. Because, you know, anybody that's got the get-go to go looking for equipment, why not try to help them out if we can? So if you have any interest in trying to get involved in helping out with that program, just shoot me an email and we'll figure out where to go from there. Outreach, that is vacant, and we're starting to see some conferences come back online. I believe that the Wisconsin conference in February would be the first that I'm aware of in the upper Midwest that'll actually be conducted on person. Right now, you know, I typically have tried to make it to the conference floor, but too much on the plate right now. And so this is by the wayside. If you're interested in helping clean up both our online and our conference effort, by all means, give me a holler. Brian, I think you're with us. I know that there's not been anything that's happened here, largely because of issues of both of us being busy with other stuff. But I thought it was important that you've already placed online a number of documents that you've been able to, the draft documents you've been able to get from the feds. So could you talk to that, please?
Yeah, and I'll turn my video off because my internet connection is a little bit flaky, so that'll, at least you can hear me. You know, in light of what's just happened down in Kentucky and everything, it really brings light to this problem, including the fires up in Northeast, is maps do get produced, but it still boils back to the fundamental question of where's the disaster. And when you have a 200-mile long tornado, and you just shake your head. And even today, I was just not impressed with a couple websites. Oh, we can see it from space, from the lights dimming off on the satellites from one of the weather satellites. Well, that doesn't do anybody good on the ground, anything good on the ground. So, and the other little fly in the ointment is my contacts at DHS, Chris Haney, sort of got removed. I don't know if he's been permanently removed or what, but that's where a lot of this information came from. It also came from the FEMA guy, who's a former Coast Guard guy, of these draft documents. But again, it still isn't to the point where once this happens, can the emergency responder say, call up some person and say, hey, I need this kind of a resource, whether it's for a fire, for a flood, for a tornado, whether it's optical radar. I mean, the list is just sort of endless. In fact, I just talked to this afternoon, the Office of Surface Mining, which is a federal agency, and they're getting a little bit of support for radar imagery for looking at mine slumping in active mines, because they've had some problems with that. Luckily, no deaths recently. So, you know, again, it goes back to this problem of how to do this properly. I'm open to any additional ideas of how to get at that fundamental question of where is the disaster and who to call is really what it boils down to. Maybe that's a geospatial problem. Maybe they could help us out in some regards. Stacy, you know, you're part of that group. That might maybe could be a project, for example. And also, lastly, I do vaguely recall about 10, 15 years ago, Steve, I made a KML map of Minnesota of remote sensing resources, and frankly, I can't find it anymore. Of like different agencies, people like Dave Four out in Redwood Falls,
Yeah,
both the plans. And so again, we'll probably have to have a call sometime this January and February when things hopefully slow down and maybe tackle this thing again.
yeah. We really need to do what we can do on our end in the state to clean this up so that we know what we've got, and then, if you will, use it maybe to force the hand of the feds to identify, okay, well, how do we get a hold of this stuff? Because right now it's totally foggy.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
You bet.
Hey, can I just add one quick thing, Brian? I don't see planet imagery on there. Are you familiar with planet?
Oh God, yeah, I'm familiar with Planet. I'm familiar with Black Sky. I'm familiar with about every other satellite system that's up there. The question is again access, and I know the university does have that. In fact, for your benefit, Stacy, I did pull down through the university tornado path up on Clearwater Lake this fall. That was 5 miles from a friend of mine's cabin. I mean, it's literally in the middle of nowhere, and sure enough, there's a path there. So again, that's going to be probably one of the better resources. And again, the licensing stuff is, you probably know that a little bit better than I do. But how do you get that out to the public is really the bigger question.
Yeah, or something like that. I mean, I think some of these that are going to be the best for emergency response, maybe this committee puts together, I mean, just what you're doing, information for the state to say how much it would cost, because it might be worth it to actually access Planet. I mean,
Oh, agreed.
yeah, and if that's something that this group is interested in, Len might be able to give a presentation about our subscription.
Yep.
And what we've found and what it includes.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Stacy. And there was an additional idea to that is both Steve and I know Mark Corver with AWS, and I was going to bug him and sort of see what's happening on the emergency side of AWS. And maybe there's something there that can be leveraged as well.
So, Stacy, thank you. And I would point out, if you look down in the lower right-hand corner, the version of what's up there was what this committee created back in April of 2009. And if you can remember, that was the Red River Valley flooding. And no one had any handle on what needed to be done in terms of obtaining imagery or mapping support and trying to understand the complexities of what FEMA would pay for or what they would not pay for. So this whole grid here needs to be updated and reflect things like availability of Planet and what's it's going to cost and all the rest of it, because this is just something you're not going to figure out when an event happens. You need, this is one of those things you need to lean forward on to get a handle on it. So yeah.
Right. Sorry, somehow I missed that key point that this was a document that was over a decade old.
Well,
I was thinking this was.
No. I mean, that's not been made apparent here. It's just, it's the best that we've got right now is what it amounts to.
Yeah, and seriously, the sad thing with the Red River flood is back in 1997, when the biggest one happened, where Grand Forks burned. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers did a beautiful radar map of the whole flood zone area. It was after the fact, but they proved that this could be done. And then when that last one, whatever we wrote the report for, we find out that the FEMA told the U.S. Army Corps to stay out of the emergency response business. Again, it's just it's a bit of a chaotic problem, but we'll try tackling it. And Steve knows how to address people in Congress right now, so he's an expert at this. So here's your next challenge, Steve. No, don't go there, Steve. I know it's an inside joke.
I'm about ready to jump out the first floor window. Okay. Anyway, Stacy, on I was just curious, the metadata that you've posted online or getting ready to at MinGeo, how closely did it line up with what's in the situational viewer? Do you know?
I think it's pretty close. And like I said, what I showed you actually isn't our latest version, but
Yep.
I think that would be a good thing to look at. I think when I looked at them before, I think that we were looking at pretty much the same data sets. But as I understand, you also manipulated some of the data sets for the viewer here. And
Correct.
we're trying to point people to data sets that are published to consume, that are
Right.
at the source.
But we've also provided links to get to those data sets. So if you open up view the metadata, each one of those will be described independently and provide the link to get the exact same data set. So I think for your group, it'd be an interesting point of comparison.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
I will make that.
There we go, Randy. You're up.
Well, I guess the latest update is working on an interface that would allow anybody to register a map series or map books that exist on the internet. You simply provide a URL. I mean, you provide your name and a name for the map series, but then a URL that points to a GeoJSON file that describes all the extents of whatever it is. If it's individual maps or if it's a map book, it really doesn't matter. Those will then be ingested into this application so that they will just show up. So it will allow maps. We always thought we had to actually receive all of the maps and things like that. You can go there. Yeah. I thought we had to receive all the maps and things like that. But as long as somebody can put them on the internet, make them web accessible, then they just create a GeoJSON file that can be registered here. So they're the URL, the map series URL is actually pointing to the JSON file. JSON file has polygon coordinates, extents, and then it has a URL that points to the map itself. So it's really pretty straightforward, very flexible. Still finishing up the details on it. Nicole's working on that, but I think we have gone through a couple of rounds.
Actually, for our beer drinking event this afternoon, you and I are supposed to commiserate because she's ready to rock and roll with the thing. So we got to figure out how to blend together the stuff like your maps are not there for Wisconsin as an example.
But that's what I gave her as a test.
Okay.
So
okay, but
she's all ready to go on that. I believe so. I believe I gave her that.
Yeah.
I have to check. I think I used the interface to plug in the Wisconsin maps. But that was the other thing is Steve and I worked on a repository for the maps. I don't remember where that was out on. I don't remember where you put it.
It's hosted on the hosting for the U.S. National Grid Institute.
IWG. Oh, the Institute. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So all the Wisconsin maps are out there. So we didn't have to go and beg around to find a place to put it. And as it turns out, it isn't a ridiculous amount of storage in terms of whatever you're using for that site. So it was a good thing. And we figured out how to do the FTP for it and everything else. So that all worked out well.
All right. Thank you, Randy.
I did present as far as US National Grid. I did give the usual presentation at the GSLAS conference, which ended up being end of October. Gave a regular 30-minute presentation on intro to the US National Grid, and then I also did a lightning round on US National Grid. I think that's it.
Good stuff. Thank you. All right, on to old business, new business. Is there any old business? Going once, going twice, gone. Is there any new business? Going once, going twice, gone. Chair closing comments into the EPC admin meeting. Well, I'm going to wrap 2001 up with the Broken Compass Award. Anybody have any ideas who it might be?
Steve Swayze?
Wrong. No, nope. We're going to give her an award, a good one, a positive one, not a bad one. You and your 2021 EPC efforts. No kidding. If you think across the spectrum from what Stacy's group has been working on, what Corey has been involved in, all of Randy's efforts, the underground utilities mapping project team, and on and on. There has been a tremendous amount of work that this group has accomplished over the past year, and you have my most sincere appreciation for everything you've done. I believe the state incrementally gets safer and safer every year by virtue of what GIS technology can do and is doing to support the emergency services sector. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And you, Steve.
Yeah, I appreciate that,
Absolutely.
but you know, I'm just one person in the cog here. So, and with that, next EPC meeting, look at your calendars. I'm not smart enough to know when kids go on break in Minnesota. So we want to avoid that week. That much I do know. So I've got 10 or 17 posted there. Any thoughts on that one? You can't have it on the 17th. I'll be green from drinking beer. Randy,
Either one looks okay to me.
any complaints out there? The 10th or the 17th, either one good? Okay. I'm a lazy guy, so we'll punch it. We'll punch it back to the 17th unless I find something terribly wrong with that day. But anyway, then it comes down to the leadership team, maybe a month out or so. I would really like to try to get back to at least one in-person meeting per year, because we've just been, this Zoom thing is wearing me out. I'm telling you, everybody wants to do Zoom. And while we've been here, typically in spring, we've done some sort of a theme thing with flooding / imagery support, air support, whatever you want to call it. But I think we also have another candidate. Sam, would you be interested in presenting on Next Gen 911?
Absolutely, yeah. I know we are working on version 2.0, basically, of the NENA standards. So we'll have a standards update that'll impact probably our state standards as well.
Interesting. Okay. Knowing that, we will ponder in the leadership team as to what we want to do, and we'll get the word out fairly soon, sometime January timeframe, far enough in advance so it isn't kind of this last minute thing what we did here. So, okay, we know what we got there, and with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? We're 5 minutes over. It's terrible. Going once. Come on, Randy.
So
A
moved.
motion.
Okay. Seconded by.
Second.
All right. There we are. Is there anybody opposed? In contrast to all in favor, say aye, because that doesn't work. Hearing no one is opposed, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. And to the degree that you want to hang around and just shoot the breeze, pop a cool one, or do whatever, please feel free to hang out, because I'm going to leave it up and running. If you got something you want to show and tell, that'd be cool too.